So this session is going to cover how we built a kind of impactful campaign and engaged politicians and energy stakeholders, how we created public momentum and how this resulted in lasting political change. So we're going to discuss kind of about the campaign a little bit, the tactics we used, also the outcomes and kind of what other people said about our campaign. And then there'll be some time for questions at the end. So I'm just going to start with talking about the campaign. So it's a campaign that's been running for a few years before I joined CPRE, before we joined, but we were like refreshing it when we joined. And previously we'd been trying to get the government to acknowledge that we needed a rooftop revolution. And I saw another presentation earlier which said, the government borrowed your messaging, and they kind of did the same for us. We finally got Ed Miliband to say that there should be a rooftop revolution. And so when we were kind of refreshing it recently, this was last year, there was like a raft of planning reform going on. And so we developed a kind of checklist of 3 things we wanted to see to fast forward the rooftop revolution. The first one, excuse me, you can thank Arsenal for that. Mm-hmm. The first one was enabling every UK home to become a clean energy powerhouse. So kind of getting rooftop solar on new build homes and retrofitting existing ones, which like cuts bills and carbon. The second thing was delivering a retrofit revolution on kind of huge amounts of wasted space. So these are like large-scale roofs of warehouses, farm buildings, supermarkets, hospitals, schools, and over car parks. And then the third pillar of the campaign, and kind of the one why we as a kind of land use countryside charity became particularly interested in it, is making best use of our finite land. So we have like a limited amount of land in the UK, and we've kind of got all these very important things that we need to do, like affordable housing and nature, renewable energy, nature-friendly farming. And so we just wanted to make sure that when we're planning solar developments on the ground, they avoid our best farmland and also our most beautiful and tranquil landscapes. And this kind of continues to allow the countryside to play this vital role of all these different things that we need it to do.
Yeah, thanks, Leila. I was just going to say a bit of a spoiler of Ed Miliband already coming up in the start. So to begin, just backtracking slightly, the context for our campaign. In 2023, we were doing a lot of research at CPRE as to what clean energy futures look like, particularly for rural England, and grounding what our recommendations were going to be in what makes sense for the countryside, what is going to be needed to transform our country into a place that allows everyone to have clean energy. And that's when we started investigating rooftop solar. And from then we are looking more into what are the costs, what are the opportunities, where can we learn internationally, and how can we really push for that change politically and get people involved. And so then fast forward, and it's a cold December in 2024, and we're still working on clean energy a bit in the background for following that 2023 campaign. And a private members' bill ballot has just come out. And so trying to avoid too much jargon, but a private members' bill is a chance for backbench MPs to have any legislation that they want brought forward and the chance to have that debated in Parliament. And so we saw that as a great opportunity to bring back rooftop solar because Max Wilkinson, a Lib Dem MP, had brought up a bill called the New Home Solar Generation Bill, otherwise known as the Sunshine Bill, which is a lovely, nice title. And in the long title it said, a bill to require solar, basically meaning that his bill proposed that all suitable new homes in England would have rooftop solar as standard. And that was something that our research had previously shown was a really great idea. And it seems quite common sense to start with. Rooftop solar is a great way of getting people's energy at home, and it's a great way for that to be like equitable across the country so that as many people as possible can benefit. So once this ballot was selected, sorry, going a bit ahead, we really wanted to amplify the work that Max was doing and take it into our own a bit and push that as a campaign. And so our main goal with any private member's bill, the main goal of the MP proposing it is typically to get the bill to become an act. But often the secondary goal with a bill like this is just to get momentum, to get that seen in a stage that it wouldn't already. There's been a lot of other private members' bills in the past year that have really succeeded in getting a lot more public traction. And so with the Rooftop Solar and the Sunshine Bill, we saw it as an opportunity to do profile raising, and potentially the goals behind the bill could also be delivered elsewhere as a secondary goal. So what we did, as you can see on these nice screens, we did an email your MP action. And we didn't have much time. This was late December. Lola was like 1 month into the job at this point. And so we jumped her in pretty quickly into creating this action and asking people to write to their MP to attend the debate on the 17th of January, happens to be my birthday, to attend and speak up for Rooftop Solar. The more MPs in the room who are supportive, or at least even if they can't attend, but they're supportive, the better. And that gets it more likely to be heard in the government. So we put an email out to our supporters and did a lot of social media work around getting people to attend. So CPRE, we haven't also mentioned yet, is a federated charity. We have 40 groups across England. And so we tried to mobilise those local groups to get people in different constituencies to also email their MP. And then we wanted to track the responses more around where the MP is going to be there, did they support or oppose, and why. The opposition was also really interesting for us because we knew this was going to be a long journey. It wasn't potentially going to become a bill straight away. We wanted to see why people were still having reservations about rooftop solar. Was it like cost and they thought it should be other reasons? Or sometimes is it net zero objections as well, which we're starting to see more of, and how is that mapping out across the country? And we were also trying to track how many different MPs were reached, and did our supporters tailor their emails? If so, how, and what we could use that for. So within a month, we had 10,000 supporters sending email to their MP about this. It was our biggest action for CPRE in years. And it really showed us we had a core group of supporters who were engaged and willing to act on clean energy, which was fantastic. But particularly important to note was we managed to reach over 90% of all MPs in the entire UK, not just England, even though our charity isn't just England. We got a really good spread of contact, and we also a really good spread of MPs turning up on the day who said that they would not have otherwise done so had it not been not just for our push, but this push from people living in their areas who said this matters to me. It was also a lot of cross-party support, and that was really great. And we had a lot more web traffic on the day during that month, which we also gathered some interesting data around the ease of completing an action like this. Around 94% of people who started an action did actually go through and complete it, even though when you see that previous slide, it does seem kind of technical to a lot of people. Like rooftop solar isn't always the easiest thing to understand, especially if someone thinks, oh, am I going to have to now like change how I get my heating or something like that? What does it mean to me? And so it just shows that like simplifying something can make it really accessible. And also we had the majority of people send the emails via their phones. And then second was laptops, which was interesting because it just shows you can do it on the go. It doesn't, again, have to be something overly complicated. Back to Lola for what we did next.
Thank you. So following from the success of the engagement that we saw with the Sunshine Bill, as I said, we were kind of refreshing the campaign. And so we launched a pledge, which was basically a petition on engaging networks, urging Ed Miliband to get smart on solar. And Yeah, so we had over 6,200 people sign this pledge, which was amazing. But really, it was more of a data gathering exercise. And I think that's okay. Like, that's quite common sometimes for charities to use actions to kind of build up a more engaged, smaller group of people that you then want to take on a further journey, which was basically what we were doing with this. So the people who signed this pledge were then taken on a kind of email journey, which were asking them to do things like donate. They were sent 3 emails, and kind of on average, there was like a 70% open rate for these emails and a kind of over 4.3% click rate or something. So it's a very small, engaged group of people. And then shout out to Dwayne, who's over in the corner there, because we use Just Post, which is formerly known as Postbug, a really great platform for sending printed postcards to people in power, which I would really recommend. And yeah, we found this was quite an innovative action for us, which kind of counters the like email your MP fatigue that we're seeing quite a lot with our own actions, and that kind of we talk about in the sector. So we used it in a kind of preemptive way. There was a government consultation on having solar canopies over car parks, very niche topic. But we thought this was a great use of like doubling up on land, so that, yeah, making use of car parks. So we know the government had been consulting on this, and we decided to urge our supporters to send postcards to their MPs saying, like, we know you've just done this consultation, like, please, we support this issue, kind of using examples from their local constituency. People were also able to upload their own photos to use on the postcards, or pick photos that we provided. So we were kind of using it in a preemptive way, like there wasn't a vote or a debate planned or anything, but you could use it in a more focused way. And we kind of were aiming for quality, not quantity. So there were about 796 postcards sent to 338 cross-party MPs. So that's not a huge number, but we wanted to focus on like the uniqueness of each postcard and the quality. And we had over £2,400 donated by almost 50% of supporters, which was amazing. And these were all people that had previously signed that Engaging Networks pledge or handraiser. And the reason they donated through this is because there's a like pay it forward function where you can like offer to pay for someone else's postcard that might not be able to pay for it. So that worked really well for us. We also had some like set text and some adjustable text. And we also had this great function where you could search for your MP's postcode, and then it would like tell you, kind of reference in the text of the postcard whether they'd previously supported solar, rooftop solar or not. And just a shout out also to the Climate Coalition, who have this kind of site called the Local Intelligence Hub. I'd really recommend taking a look at it, because that's a really great way. That was kind of inspiration for us of how you can get all this information on your MP and like feed it into the actions you're doing. So again, our local groups are really helpful with this action for using like really very specific examples of like, you know, their local Asda car park having solar panels, which was great. And we got really positive feedback from supporters. Oh.
Thanks, Leah. So we've kind of talked a lot about small different actions we did along the way, and I think one of the real positives about this campaign is it wasn't a we do this one thing, get everyone involved, and that's it. It was a series of lots of small individual targeted approaches, and something we also did to maximize like the campaign and really work closely with different stakeholders was events. And it sounds a bit straightforward, but hosting a few, participating in a bunch with a really targeted campaign message was essential for us to deliver the change by being in the same rooms as the people you want to be making those decisions. So we hosted a clean power panel, and this was really around focusing in much more depth on the policy challenges and opportunities of delivering rooftop solar. We wanted to hear from government. We wanted to hear from the private sector as well, and other charities around what they're hearing. What are those like emerging threats? Be right on top of it and right at the edge of making change. It's similar to how we did with the consultation and with the private members bill. It felt very important to us, if we wanted to deliver the change, we had to stick very closely to emerging trends within what the DESNES and other government departments were doing. And so this panel was a really great way for us to find out more about this, and just continue reiterating that message and using those supporter messages and bringing that, like, the conversation that's happening on the ground to light. We also participated in last year's mass lobby for climate and nature. Shout out anyone else who was also there, and use that as an opportunity to again bridge those connections between action on rooftop solar and action for climate and nature. It's also interconnected, and people who are then interested in one might then be more likely to be supportive of rooftop solar. If you can see the benefit that clean energy is having on roofs, you might be more likely, because you're already interested in climate or nature. Those are the types of people we want to draw in, bring in new audiences as well. And yes, we also put, there's a picture of two of our colleagues in the lovely Act Now, Change Forever, happy, sad Earth hats from, I can't remember which organisation did those. Friends of the Earth's Great Hats. So again, a lot of this was around collaboration. We really didn't want this to try and be a CPRE wants to do this campaign and like strive to the end without bringing others along the way. And so reaching out to like community energy groups and going to like the community energy conference, finding out what difference is rooftop solar actually having on like school buildings or hospitals or like community centres, or the difference it's made to someone's bills. And so actually getting a bit more on the ground information as well was really important. Yes, and the network as well, encouraging them to host their own local events and meeting their MP, having those sorts of conversations about rooftop solar across the year as it went on.
Yeah, I definitely think that when we do actions, and I mean, everyone knows this already, but MPs get like really localized examples in their emails like that. Definitely, people were getting replies from their MPs when we were doing the Sunshine Bill. So that was really positive. So we had lots of big wins, which were very exciting this year. So the Future Home Standard came out recently, which is like building regulations. And we've been calling for this for a really long time, along with many others. So it basically says that new build homes will have solar panels on them from 2028, and is making like plug-in solar panels more available, which you can like put on your balcony or the side of your home, not sure where. And then the Warm Homes Plan was a massive thing for us as well. That was big investment in, again, solar panels on new homes, but also tripling the number of homes with solar by 2030. And this was especially important for social housing as well, because there was a big injection of investment in social housing for solar. And we know that people who live in social housing are most vulnerable to fuel poverty. But there's also still a lot for us to do. So it's kind of an ongoing campaign. Well, it definitely is an ongoing campaign. And it's like, how do we pull certain levers to go further and get what we want? So, for example, the government currently... They published a solar roadmap, which was like a plan of what they're going to do about solar from 2030, 2050 onwards. And they've got a focus of like 60% of solar on the ground, so like solar farms, and 40% on rooftops. But our research has shown that it can be the other way around, and we can meet the government's solar targets if we have 60% on rooftops and 40% on the ground, which, you know, as I've said, frees up land for other uses as well. And we also need to make much more of a use of kind of large-scale warehouse roofs and brownfield sites, which are like previously developed land.
Thanks. So in terms of measuring these outcomes, we said we've got some big wins which are easy to sometimes just see. If the government makes an announcement that fits what we've been asking for, that's great. But often wins are harder to see. And so one part of measuring and tracking political engagement that we thought was really useful last year was just finding out what MPs' views were and views across the sector. And so we were measuring both awareness and levels of support. And we worked with an external provider who do surveys every quarter of 100 MPs that represent the UK as a whole. It's just the sample group, it changes every quarter. And they ask them about specific campaigns that have been running. So we asked if they could get feedback on our Rooftop Solar Campaign, how many have heard of it, and how many of them support it, and then also if they do support it, what action had they taken to show their support. And so it was really interesting to see the range of responses from MPs, because there's a lot of agreement, but could you go back actually, please? That's a lot of different MPs will support rooftop solar for quite different reasons. So it might be it's a very local issue and matters in their constituency, or it could be it's around cost of living, or it could be more of an international threat around energy security. And so understanding what the reasons why is later helping us to inform communications with MPs. It helped us inform our party conference preparation last year as well, in the ways we actually target support. Could you press next, please? And this also, we did the same survey last summer with, again, a sample group of 100 peers, and measured their support as well and the different types of opportunities they had to speak up about rooftop solar. And of that 100, it's not 52% of all peers, but 52 of the 100 were aware of rooftop solar, which hopefully that's a sign that it's somewhat near a decent chunk of all peers was aware of our campaign specifically, because there were some other clean energy campaigns going on last year, and then we asked them specifically about ours, what they liked about it, and what resources we provided them with to help take action were most useful. And so we also spoke to them about we provided them with questions for select committees, who highlighted different votes going on in Parliament, and when there were debates going on, like how they could meaningfully support our work, and the research and evidence that they needed was really critical to get that constantly being heard across 2025.
So we wanted to ask just quickly, because we want to allow some time for questions at the end, but we wanted to ask some of our colleagues what they thought of the campaign. And Ellie, who's the Director of Policy and Advocacy, said that her highlight of the campaign so far was seeing how many of our supporters took the Sunshine Bill action, contacting approximately 90% of MPs. That's truly brilliant and shows to me how engaged our supporters are, and that if we provide smart, well-framed actions, then they will do the good work. Then there were some kind of learnings and challenges. So Jackie talking about sometimes trying to get the government to do exactly what you want it to do is extremely hard, and putting more funding commitment and weight behind business roof space despite its economic and environmental benefits. And then I thought this was quite good. My manager, Lewis, was kind of talking about there is a lot of overwhelming popular support for getting rooftop solar and moving towards cleaner energies, and that it's not a silver bullet, but most think it's a no-brainer. Lewis also identified that a challenge is that energy systems, like many of the topics we're working on, are extremely complex. So how do you kind of distill a very technical aspects of the work that you're doing into something that's accessible to everyone? And that can be a challenge. But he said that some of the most successful campaigns are ones that can communicate tricky ideas in a way that can be understood by as many people as possible. So obviously you've got target audiences, but if you can make something kind of like widely understood, then that's the best thing you can do. We also kind of use some quotes. So I know someone said earlier, like using quotes from your supporters is a really positive way of showing like enthusiasm for the work that you're doing. And here we've got some people talking about kind of the difference to their electricity bills, the climate crisis, being self-sufficient, pressures on land. And kind of, yeah, talking about it being a no-brainer and extending the kind of policy of solar panels on new houses to car parks, industrial and commercial buildings. So people were very, very enthusiastic about rooftop solar, we found from most of our supporters. And that is it. Thank you very much.
So we welcome questions. There's also a question we put in the poll, which is gathering all of your thoughts as to, we've shown you a range of what we've already done. And if you have ideas that you might want to chat to us later about, or just want to throw in the chat as well, please do. We'd welcome any thoughts. Last to you, Joe.
Oh, marvellous, thank you.
Hopefully we've got some questions.
We have indeed, don't worry. The postcards have proven a popular subject. We've got two questions on that. I'll combine them together. How much did the postcard campaign cost? Great idea. With the pay it forward donation ask, how did you avoid restricting your donations to the specific cost of the postcards? How did you keep it vague enough to be able to treat it as core income donations?
Yeah. So I don't want to get the exact costs wrong, and Dwayne is over there in the corner leaning against the mirror. So he can definitely answer more specific questions after about cost. But I want to say that it was a £250 setup fee, or was it more than that? One-time setup fee of £250. And £250 a postcard. Yeah. So what we had was that basically you don't have to donate for a postcard. Like you can just do it for free, and then we'd foot the cost, or other people paying it forward. So you could do it for free. You could pay for one postcard. You could pay it forward for like 5 postcards or 10 postcards. Believe it or not, some people did pay it forward for like 10 postcards, and we're paying like £25. So I guess, yeah, that's like a donation to the campaign. There are like different ways of doing it. So if they had donated directly to us, then it would have been unrestricted funding, like that's just how it would have worked, and we could have used it for anything. But we actually had the kind of account set up with Just Post. So we have some credit with Just Post now, which we're going to be using again because, you know, people donated more than the postcards that we actually sent. So that's credit that we're using, if that makes sense.
For coming up.
Yeah, new postcard action coming soon.
How did you deal with anyone that wasn't supportive of the campaign?
I mean, we've highlighted a few different reasons why people weren't supportive. That could be like a long-time supporter who just doesn't think it's a priority. It could be some random person in the public who stumbled across this and absolutely hates us. Like, there's lots of different reasons. There's also MPs who had other like research organizations or campaigning organizations who think other things should be priorities. And to be honest, it didn't stop the flow of our campaign. Like, there was a lot of noise around like, oh, I just don't like this. That, like, if it's not backed by, you know, like, if people having rants isn't something we typically respond to. And we did have, I think, on like Facebook and some other social media channels, some complaints around rooftop solar. But there was, I think we came up with like a FAQ document internally around like, what are we actually, what evidence base are we grounding this campaign on, and who are we doing this for? And we really kept that consistent around like, who do we want to benefit from this, and how do we make it so that you don't have to support our campaign. It's not like, we weren't trying to get absolutely everyone in the country on board. We are just trying to get the political will and the general consensus that this is a good idea, and that this will, in turn, if we are able to deliver rooftop solar, we can lower the costs further and deal with more clean energy technologies.
No, I was just going to say there were people who had like kind of not backed up views about solar and like renewable energy. But there were also some very valid concerns around like environmental concerns of mining of solar panels in the global south, or like forced labor as well in China. And we've done quite a lot of work with Big Solar Co-op, who are like a kind of cooperative that source their solar panels from Europe, and are much more like stringently like aware of like environmental and workers' rights abuses and that sort of thing. But yeah, an FAQ document is like so important for internally understanding the campaign and then also responding to supporters who come up with concerns.
And we'll have to call it time. But thank you, Lola. Thank you, Rosella. Wonderful talk.